Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Somil Gupta, and I am an AI strategy and monetization advisor based in Sweden. And you would think, well, it's an awfully long title. But the reason for that is today, when we see the AI strategy and monetization, they are somehow disconnected. And that's what we're trying to do, trying to bring the strategy and monetization together, right? And today, I want to talk about commercial value stream as a way to create commercial value in the context of an organization. So we'll look into why do we have so much of challenge, to create the data assets, to create value from AI. But so before we get into the problem, let's start with some numbers. All right. So this is some statistics from 2019. And you can see different sources kind of corroborate each other and talk about the same general trend that companies were not able to derive value from data and AI. As much as 40% of organizations who made investments say they did not get any returns. And this was all across. So not a very good year from the monetization point of view. However, this is the report from New Vantage Point this year. And as you can see, things have improved significantly. So most of the models are now getting into production. And most organizations, most participants in this survey are saying that they are able to get value. So good time for AI deployment. However, there are still challenges. For example, the same report says that only 40% organizations, they are able to compete on analytics. So really use analytics as a competitive advantage. Around same number of organizations are managing data as a business asset. So today in the morning, Bill Schwarzman spoke about having AI and data economic assets. It's not happening. Similarly, when we look at the transformation in the business outcomes, right? It's, again, organizations are struggling with that. The same study reported that more than 92% participants, they believe that the barrier to value creation is no longer technology. It's people, it's business processes, and culture, right? And the focus going forward for AI leaders and managers should be to improve decision-making and also to be more offensive. That means not offensive towards people, but have more offense-related or revenue-related initiatives, so that you're no longer working on regulatory use cases only, but you're also working to see how can you create additional revenue for the company. So the question is, why is it so difficult for organizations to scale data and AI? That's the real question. Now, before we answer this question, let's understand how we are taught about AI. Right? So a typical data AI workflow would look like this. So we have a business problem, and that needs to be formulated. Important term here is the representative. So we are not really solving the actual business problem with data and AI. What we are solving is a representative problem. So representative problem is an abstracted, simplified version of the business problem, and it has a lot of assumptions. Then we collect data, and then we create refined data. Then we do modeling. So we take the representation problem, and then we create a set of feasible solutions. And then we try to convert these feasible solutions back into somehow trying to solve the business decision or trying to create an outcome. And the choice of a problem here at the formulation stage determines the kind of solutions that we will have. So I might have a problem as a regression problem, and I have one set of results. But I can define the business problem as a classification problem, and I get a different set of results. If we really kind of understand these 4 dimensions, we see that these are not part of the same domain. We're talking about 2 different things. The problem formulation and the solution translation belong to the business domain here. And business domain here is the domain of hypothesis, your processes, capabilities. Hypothesis here is not the data hypothesis, it's a value hypothesis. And the raw data and refined data, these kind of problems are the part of the technical domain. The lower part is well understood, and it's I'll say, relatively common. The problems that the organization experience are quite common. And that's why we are here, because we want to discuss these problems. But the problems at the top, they are less understood, and they are not even acknowledged in a lot of organizations. And I'm going to show you that this is probably the reason why we're having these issues. So there are two types of complexities. One is the technical or analytical complexity. That is what we know as the data accuracy, the prediction accuracy, your computational efficiency. But then there are also commercial complexity, which is the problem that we are trying to solve here. How do we get return on investment? How do we abide by the regulatory regulations? How do we ensure market acceptance, right? And this commercial complexity has several sources. So there are three sources which I have identified based on my reflection. Of course, there could be many more. But the first source of complexity is the business and organization structure, the way a business model is. So if you are a value leader, then you would have those levers. If you are a cost leader, you will have those. It's basically what kind of levers an organization pulls when they need to respond to the challenge. The second source of complexity is the market and industry structure. Every industry and market has a different sensitivity towards risk. Banking player would have a different risk sensitivity compared to a manufacturing organization. And the third source of complexity here is the operational and tactical. That is how agile my business processes are, how agile my systems are. Because if I have to coordinate 100 different systems to create a response or to implement an action, it's not going to be that effective for me to implement data and AI. So these are the three sources. And now we take this information and let's try to visualize the problem statement. So we have two different layers. We have we have a strategy layer in the organizations, which is not agile, which is quite static, and it contains your business problems, your value, your hypothesis. This is the stuff that organization defines. This layer is, I'll say, still well understood and quite strong in organization. The lower layer, which is the operational layer, where we have the data, where we have the models, where we have the data science team and the value streams, this is a completely agile layer. And this information, I'll say, is again technically very well understood. But the problem is that these two layers today, they are not communicating. And these two layers, they are not connected. And as we have seen that in the previous slide, between the problem and translation and between the analytical solution, there's a thin line. And that line is what differentiates, because that line contains the third and the tactical layer, which contains your representation logic. How am I going to represent my business problem into a data problem? What is my domain model? What are my heuristics? What kind of experimentation can I do to collect the data for my users? What kind of value metrics do I have to measure my outcomes? What is my semantic models, the language and the relationship between different entities? Now, these layer, I argue, is the most important layer, which the data AI leaders and managers need to focus on. And let me show you how it is going to work. Let's say if we have this tactical layer, right? Then you have a business problem, which is in its right domain, where it should be at the strategy level. We have a problem formulation where we use the data from the representation and from the domain to formulate the problem. We collect the data, we solve the modeling the way we solve, but then we again translate the problem back using the same domain models which we have used to formulate the problems. And then we have our business decision. And I would like to kind of argue that this methodology is much more agile, and this methodology is much more this methodology is it will be much easier for us to get value. Another thing, when we talk about data and AI being economic assets, is that I can use this tactical layer, and I can convert this into economic assets. Why? Because for example, if you look at what is the marginal utility of 1% additional accuracy. So right now, let's say you are at an accuracy level of 95%, and you want to go to 96%, right? What is the value of that? It depends upon your domain. What is the cost of getting that accuracy? Also depends upon your domain. And what is the delta risk that you'll be mitigating with that accuracy? Also depends upon this. So the tactical layer has much better properties to be economic assets for the organization. What happens when we do not have this tactical layer, right? And this is where we're trying to answer. So let's say we don't have a tactical layer and we just entangle a business and technical logic. The result is that we cannot reuse our analytical assets. What happens when we are not able to manage the commercial uncertainty and risk because we do not have a domain model behind it? We are not able to create a business outcomes. What happens when we do not have the commercial execution asset, like your delivery models, your pricing models? We are not able to create commercial impact. And what happens when we do not have commercial value capture mechanisms? For example, contracts, data-driven contracts, then we cannot generate the ROI. And I argue here that this is the reason. Because this tactical layer is missing, we face these problems of why organizations is not able to commercialize their solutions. Because if you see every other function, every other part of the organization, whether it's R&D, whether it's IT, they have this tactical layer. Business has the tactical layer. But in data and AI, somehow, this tactical AI layer is missing. So what I believe, or what I kind of think, is just like data scientists today spend 80% of their time in data preparation, data management, the commercial value architects, right? This could be AI leaders, it could be managers, it could be everybody else who's involved. They will spend 80% of their time. Once they realize the importance of this, they will also spend 80% of their time in building these commercial assets and these commercial frameworks. So how do we build these commercial assets? That's the question. And we know that the tactical layer that we're talking about, the commercial layer, it has to be agile, but it also has to be flexible, right? But it also and it has to be dedicated. So when I was trying to kind of conceptualize how it would look like, I think the best mechanism to implement it would be in the form of an agile value stream. And that's where the whole idea of commercial value stream kind of comes from. So what is a commercial value stream? It's a sequence of collaborative activities for developing your agile business processes, automated systems, services, artifacts, core capabilities, everything that you need to make your data and AI model create the commercial outcome or create a business outcome. It needs a lot of supporting layers, right? All that you create here. Why? For the commercial implementation and deployment of adaptive business models, and also to create the commercial framework. So I would like to imagine, for example, if the data and AI, the AI assets are the engines, then the commercial framework, commercial assets, they are like the chassis of the car. So the engine creates the power, but that power cannot be used until you have a mechanism to transfer that power in a usable form to the road and fulfill the expectation, because the customers or the users of the car are not expecting power. We don't go to the showroom and say, I want to have the most powerful engine. What we want is acceleration, the thrill behind the acceleration. What we want to have is a mileage or fuel efficiency. What we want is how much I can travel, the distance I can travel. So the user requirements can be met when we have an enabling architecture. Now, I'd like to kind of also show you how I would how this commercial value stream will be implemented. So this is, for example, you already have a technical value stream. And what we do is we put the commercial value stream next to the technical value stream. And the way we implement this is when you are working on your data ingestion and your data transformation, parallelly, somebody in the organization is actually working on the value hypothesis and value metrics. When you move to analytical modeling and deployment, somebody in the commercial side is working on the business model design, because you'll have a lot of questions that need to be answered. When you're working on industrialization and operations, you have somebody who's working on the pricing, packaging, and delivery of the product. Finally, when you are working on your deployment, your customization, etc., you have somebody who's managing the life cycle of the end product that you're building. So the increment here, it might not be very clear. So I would like to show you with an example. I have created this slide for the NDSM, but I have just kind of modified it to explain this concept as well. So let's imagine that there's a technical value stream which is creating technical artifacts. And we have a commercial value stream which is creating commercial artifacts. And we have strategic objectives or strategic outcome that we want to achieve. And then we have the returns or the results that we want to achieve. And what I've done is I've taken the data maturity model based on the Industry 4.0 maturity model. You can find the source over there. So the first level of maturity is visibility. So all I can do right now, based on my competence level of data, is I can do descriptive analytics. The commercial value stream will use this data to create more better traceability and to have, for example, in the context of manufacturing, to use it for paperless monitoring, to create the framework for that. The strategic outcome that we can achieve with this setup is maybe have better mistake proofing. Okay. And the returns I'm going to have as a lower quality cost. Once I have converted, once I have achieved this iteration, I go to the next level where I have transparency. Transparency goal for my technical value stream is to get trends and pattern detection. For commercial value stream, it will be to create dynamic processes and to create digital workflows. And these are then, again, economic assets. And then we can improve our forecasting and then maybe reduce the sourcing cost. And then we go to the next level of maturity, which is predictability. And we go through the same iteration until we reach a level of adaptability where we have expertise, where we have the accuracy in the analytical assets, but we also have corresponding commercial assets to support our larger goals. Now, this is more in terms of how you would use in manufacturing. Let me also show you how we are using it, how I am using it in a typical, for example, a product launch concept. So there are many companies who want to accelerate their commercial launch, and they say, well, we want to commercialize our AI products in a very short time frame, right? So what we need is a good enough quality technical proof of concept or technical MVP. What we do is, using the same kind of a concept, we create a minimal marketable product. What it contains, a minimal marketable product would have things like your pricing, it will have your value metrics, it will have your financial model, it will have your sales collateral, it will have your it will have your distribution plans. So we create a commercial framework for this product, even for the maturity that the product is in. And we set up the commercial value stream, and we'll soft launch the product. Soft launch basically means the real, salespeople are taking it to real customers. So we have a technical POC, and we have a commercial framework to take it to the market. Now, what happens is very interesting. Because we have the two value streams running parallel to each other, the moment there's a new feature release, we are very quickly, maybe in a matter of 1 to 2 weeks, we are able to update the price offering and the product offering. The moment we detect a risk in the technical side, we are able to update our risk plans and our customer service contracts. And it also works the other way around. The moment we get a customer feedback on a feature, we are very quickly able to update our product backlog. So the two value streams, they run parallel to each other, and they complement each other, and they exchange information with each other. Now, I've been talking about commercial value stream, but you'll be thinking about, okay, what kind of assets that we are creating, and what are commercial assets, right? So here I would like to list some of the commercial assets which I think you would need in your business. For example, you need, for packaging of your analytics, you probably need some kind of an app or a report or a data product. For pricing, you need to have a pricing architecture, you need to have price points, you need to have a value metrics. You need to have demand estimations. If you're going towards some kind of revenue model, then you also need demand learning as a function. For decision execution, you need to have your decision models, your process backlogs to create new processes. You need domain models. If you're trying to go towards reinforcement learning, you need to define your state space, action space, reward functions. You need, for regulatory compliance, you need to have risk assessment. You need to have your compliance reporting in place. For simulation and test, you need to have your market testing, user testing, etc. So you need these assets to really convert a technical product into a commercial product. The question that I want to ask you is, how many of you are actually building these things proactively in a structured format? And that is one question. And as we did a panel discussion here on the algorithmic business, the more we move towards algorithmic business, right, the more commercial assets we will need like this. Because if we are not able to manage commercialization in the time frame of quarters and years, how will we do it in the time frame of hours or days and weeks? And algorithmic business is all about time, right? So if you are thinking about algorithmic business in the near future, I would like you to really take this as your base and developing this. Who are the participants in the commercial value stream? Well, practically everyone. So you need to have analytical translators who would help you with the formulation and translation. You need the business development to give you commercial feasibility. You need marketing and user research to give you voice of the customer. You need finance, legal to look after your governance and risk. You need value delivery. You need R&D operations to look after your value delivery. And you need process owners and IT to do agile processes. And this is not theoretical. This is what we do. When we go and implement, we actually take a sign-off. So if I have a financial model, it will be signed off by the CFO. If you're preparing a sales plan, it will be signed off by the sales leader. So this is not theoretical. We actually get their signature and their approval. And that is how the entire organization becomes a part of the initiative. But you need to have some prerequisites. The prerequisites are, number one, you need to simplify and abstract AI. I'm not saying that you need to dumb it down. On the contrary, you need to be really smart about it. If you can communicate your product or your initiative in terms of cost, value, and risk, the business would understand. And that is where we need to go. We need to be proactive about communication. Shared language. It's important that everybody understands what we're talking about. It's important to have a common language that everybody can use. Because without this, we might be talking about different things. Common mission charter. So if you're defining your AI goals, this is again for the AI leaders and managers. If you're defining your goals, better to do it for business from the business objective. You will not find insurance companies saying, let's do statistics. Or you will not find a civil or mechanical engineer saying, OK, let's do finite element analysis, right? The technology is not important. What are you getting out of it? So it's important to talk in terms of business objectives. And you need to have a culture of continuous learning. And you need relentless focus on the value. Every time you do something, you need to ask why we are doing this, what is the value, is this really important? The outcome, once you are able to create the value stream, and once you have created your tactical layer, you will realize that it will be much easier because your problem formulation will match your organization structure. Your solution recommendation will match your business model and capability. Your model accuracy will be as per the regulatory compliance. And your metrics and thresholds that you define for your quality, they will actually match the desired level that you want. But more importantly, you will have control over your strategy. You will have control over your assets. And you will have control over the outcome that the AI is generating. So in summary, there are two different types of complexity, analytical and commercial. The commercial complexity results from the structure of the organization, the structure of the market, industry, and the factors which are operational in nature. Data AI initiatives today, they lack the tactical commercial layer to manage this commercial complexity. And you need the commercial assets to kind of support your high-level goals, the reuse, business outcomes, etc., while managing the technical and commercial complexity that is coming from below. And finally, your commercial value stream is that mechanism by which you can have an organization collaborating, but create these assets, create the commercial enablement in a structured, in a focused way. And I really kind of call upon AI leaders and managers to use this because I have used it on several locations and it works. So this is all that I wanted to share. Thank you so much. Also wanted to thank Hyperight because they're really pushing the monetization and they're really kind of helping us to kind of align with value. So thank you so much.